Today I want to talk about suicide. I think it is a huge subject that we are really frightened of talking about. It has a real stigma around it. It's taboo, and it shouldn't be. Um, Over 6,000 people a year take their own lives in the UK, and that's 6,000 people that we should be helping. Tens of thousands more attempt to take their lives. And did you know less than 1 in 20 of those have seen a healthcare professional in the 12 months leading up to the attempt on their life? We have to get people talking about suicide. The effect it has on family and friends that are left behind must be just devastating. I can't imagine a worse way of losing a loved one, of living with that feeling of, was there something I should have seen? Is there something I could have done? And everybody has the ability to help somebody that is considering taking their own life, but it needs to be spoken about. It needs to be talked about. It's the second most common cause of death in 15 to 24-year-olds. And we shouldn't be losing people to suicide at any age, let alone our youth. We have to open these conversations. We have to learn how to start a conversation with somebody that we're worried about, not judge them, not think they're overreacting. We have to listen. We have to support them. We have to point them in the right direction of getting professional support if that's what they need. It's pointless saying to people, "Oh, talk to me about it. I won't tell anyone." You can't keep that promise, because if somebody's life is in your hands and you need to go to a healthcare professional to share that burden and to help that person, you can't start out by saying, "Oh, I promise I won't talk to anybody about it." And if somebody says that they feel suicidal, or a passing comment, "I wish I was dead, the world would be better off without me," you need to ask the question, how serious are you about this? Have you planned how you're going to take your own life? Because very often saying something like that, it can be a cry for help. But what you really, really, really need to sit up and take notice when somebody says, "Yes, actually, I've thought about how I'm going to do it," because that is imminent. And that is when you need to contact somebody and say, "I'm really scared for this person's life." When I became a mental health first aider, one of the things that I was taught is that sometimes you have to ask those scary questions, because that is how you know whether it is a cry for help, whether somebody just needs somebody to talk to, somebody to support them, or whether you need to contact someone like the Samaritans to get that person immediate intervention. A majority of people that talk about suicide, it is a cry for help. It is them saying, "I need support," but not immediate intervention. But if somebody can actually articulate how they were planning or how they are planning to take their own life, that's when people need to intervene. And it's like, in my head, if somebody said to me, "I want some of your blood, a life depends on it," I would give that willingly. And the same way, if I said to somebody, "Are you thinking of taking your own life? Have you considered how you're going to do that?" If they could answer that question directly, that is like them saying to me, "Sandy, you could save my life." But up until 1961, it was actually against the law to take your own life. And if you attempted suicide and you failed, you could be prosecuted and sent to jail. In 1961, the law changed and that could no longer happen. And that's where the term commit suicide comes from, because it is committing a crime. So now people talk about completing suicide. So I think there's still that kind of stigma from way back when it was seen as a crime. The other thing, I think people are under the misapprehension that all suicides are related to mental illness. And that's not the case. There's only a small proportion that are related to things like depression, alcoholism, schizophrenia. a lot of suicides are actually on the spur of the moment. A lot of suicides are brought on through relationship breakdown, financial pressures, and there's no history of mental illness. So I think people are frightened of having the conversation. It's exactly the same as they are with mental illness, because they're frightened of opening a can of worms that they can't control. But what people need to understand is they don't need to fix the person. They need to be the person that whoever is thinking about taking their life can touch base with to get a bit of support, and then get put in touch with the healthcare professionals that can really help them. As individuals, as a mental health first aider, as a colleague, as a friend, I'm not there to fix somebody. I'm there to support them. Through my work as a bus driver, when I was a driver in London, one of my colleagues took his life. And when I was a manager in Bournemouth, we had a driver take his own life. The first time it happened, I was quite young. I didn't know then what I knew now. The second time it happened, I was devastated, because even though I wasn't particularly close to him, I felt that as his line manager, I should have known that something was wrong, but I didn't. And I think it doesn't matter. You're not always going to be able to catch it, but you should be open to catching it. And if you see somebody behaving in a way that they don't normally behave, and it raises the slightest concern, you should say to that person, hey, you okay? Not just, oh, are you all right? Like passing, expecting a, yeah, I'm fine. If you saw a friend of yours limping, you wouldn't say, are you all right? And then just gloss over it. You would want to find out what was wrong. So if a friend or a colleague is behaving out of the ordinary, doing something, I don't know, that they talk a lot about presenteeism, when you're just sitting at your desk and gazing into space and you're not getting a lot of work done. If that is uncharacteristic of the person that you know, touch base with them, talk to them. If you think somebody that you know needs your help, don't be embarrassed to go and offer that help. And if you're in a position of wanting help, don't be embarrassed to reach out.